Sarah Chen sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open to another job application portal, when the familiar chime of her banking app notification made her stomach drop. She'd been religiously monitoring their finances for 8 months now, ever since her marketing coordinator position at the tech startup had been eliminated in a round of budget optimizations. What she saw on the screen made her hands tremble. Account withdrawal, $8,000, $23,000. That's what they'd managed to save over 3 years of careful budgeting, skipped dinners out, and her meticulous coupon clipping. Every dollar had been earmarked: $15,000 for her dream photography business, $8,000 for emergencies. She'd tracked every expense in color-coded spreadsheets, negotiated better rates on their insurance, even started a small side business selling handmade jewelry online to contribute something. Anything while she searched for full-time work. Now a third of their future had vanished with a single transaction. "Marcus," she called out, but heard only the shower running upstairs. Her husband of 7 years had been increasingly distant lately, coming home later from his job as operations manager at Henderson & Associates, claiming increased responsibilities. She'd supported his ambitions, celebrated his small promotions, never questioned his need to network with colleagues. The bathroom door opened 20 minutes later and Marcus emerged in his best suit, hair perfectly styled, humming contentedly. "We need to talk," Sarah said, holding up her phone screen. Marcus barely glanced at it, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. "Oh, that. Yeah. I had to book the Hawaii retreat last minute. Jim said if we didn't secure the resort this week, we'd lose the corporate rate." "Hawaii retreat?" Sarah's voice rose an octave. "You said it was a mandatory training conference in Portland. And $8,000 for a work trip?" Plans changed. Marcus grabbed his briefcase with practiced indifference. "The company's covering most of it, obviously. I just had to front the money." "Most of it? Marcus, that's our emergency fund. That's my business fund. We agreed. We agreed that I'd handle the finances while you figure things out." His tone carried a sharp edge she'd been hearing more frequently. "Which, by the way, how's the job hunt going? Any callbacks from those 50 applications this week?" Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. She'd had 3 phone interviews in the past month, but the market was brutal. Companies wanted someone currently employed, someone who hadn't been out of the workforce for 8 months, someone who didn't have a gap in their resume that screamed damaged goods. "I had a second interview with the digital marketing firm yesterday, another promising opportunity that'll probably ghost you like the rest." Marcus checked his watch, clearly eager to leave. "Look, I need to go. Flight's at 10 and I still need to pick up Jim and Dave." "Wait." Sarah stood, blocking his path to the door. "You can't just take $8,000 without discussing it. That's not how marriages work." And I checked. Henderson & Associates posted their quarterly earnings call yesterday. There was no mention of mandatory training or retreats. Marcus's jaw tightened. "What are you auditing me now? Checking up on my company like some paranoid? I'm trying to understand why my husband lied to me about draining our savings account." The words hung in the air between them and Sarah watched something shift in Marcus's expression. The mask of casual dismissal fell away, replaced by cold anger. "Lied?" His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You want to talk about contributions, Sarah? About partnership? I've been carrying this household for 8 months while you sit around in your pajamas, applying to jobs you're clearly not qualified for. I work 10-hour days dealing with actual responsibility while you play house and organize your little spreadsheets." Sarah stepped back as if slapped. "I've been taking care of everything here, managing our budget, keeping us afloat, keeping us afloat." Marcus's laugh was harsh. "With what money? Your unemployment ran out 3 months ago. Your jewelry business made what, $60 last month? I'm the only one earning anything in this marriage, which means I get to decide how that money gets spent. We're supposed to be partners." "Partners?" Marcus grabbed his suitcase and headed for the door. "Partners contribute equally. Right now, you're just dead weight. A worthless failure who contributes nothing while I carry this family." The door slammed behind him, leaving Sarah alone in the sudden silence. She sank into the kitchen chair, his words echoing in her mind. Worthless failure, dead weight. 3 hours later, while numbly scrolling through her phone to distract herself from the devastating conversation, Sarah saw the Instagram story that shattered what remained of her trust. Marcus grinning widely in a poolside photo, cocktail in hand, tagged at the Grand Welle Resort. The caption read, "Boys Trip, Finally some R&R with the crew, not a work retreat, not a work retreat, not a mandatory training, a luxury vacation with his friends, funded by their shared dreams and her careful saving. As she screenshotted the post with shaking fingers, Sarah realized that the man she'd loved and supported for 7 years had just revealed exactly what he thought of her. More importantly, he'd shown her exactly who he really was. The betrayal cut deeper than the money, deeper than the lie. It was the casual cruelty in his voice when he'd called her worthless, the calculated way he'd dismissed her contributions, the smug confidence that she'd simply accept his version of reality. But Marcus had made one crucial mistake. He'd assumed that 8 months of unemployment had made her weak. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Sarah spent the first day after Marcus's departure in a fog of hurt and disbelief, but by the second morning, something had shifted. The analytical mind that had made her excellent at marketing research kicked into gear, and she began to see patterns she'd been too trusting to notice before. It started with Marcus's laptop still open on the kitchen counter where he'd left it in his rush to catch his flight. He'd always been careless with passwords, using variations of their wedding date for everything. Within minutes, she was scrolling through his email history. What she found made her stomach churn. Email after email to his colleagues painted a picture of a man she barely recognized. To Jim from accounting, can't make drinks tonight, the wife's been extra needy since she lost her job. You know how it is with unemployed spouses, they get clingy. To his boss Mr. Henderson, sorry for being distracted lately, dealing with some personal issues at home. My wife's been struggling with the job hunt, and it's affecting the household dynamic. But it was the email thread with his friend Dave that truly revealed Marcus's character. Honestly man, I don't know why I'm even still married. Sarah's become such dead weight. Haven't told her yet, but I'm thinking about my options. Life's too short to be tied down to someone who can't even get hired at an entry-level position. Sarah's hands shook as she scrolled further back. Months of emails complaining about her, diminishing her contributions, painting himself as the long-suffering husband of a failure. He'd been building this narrative for months, positioning himself as the victim in their marriage. She switched to his social media accounts, and the betrayal deepened. His Facebook profile, which she rarely checked, showed a different story to his privacy settings. To certain friends and coworkers, he appeared seeing photos of him at office happy hours, work events, even their recent dinner at Romano's, all cropped to exclude her, captioned as treating myself instead of date night with the wife. His Instagram was work. The account she followed showed their normal life, couple photos, home updates, the occasional sweet message. But she discovered a second account, one he'd never mentioned, where he posted gym selfies and motivational quotes about cutting dead weight from your life and surrounding yourself with winners. The financial records told an even more damaging story. Sarah had been so focused on managing their tight budget that she hadn't noticed Marcus's spending pattern. For the past 6 months, he'd been living like a bachelor, expensive lunches charged to their credit card, late-night bar tabs, even a subscription to a dating app hidden in their phone bill. But the most devastating discovery came when she checked their credit reports. Marcus had applied for 3 credit cards in her name over the past 4 months, using her personal information and their joint tax returns to inflate her income. 2 had been approved, with a combined limit of $12,000. Cards she'd never seen, bills that had been redirected to his work address. Sarah printed everything, her marketing background kicking in as she organized the evidence into categories: financial fraud, emotional manipulation, reputation damage, and deception. She created a timeline cross-referencing dates and expenditures, building a case that would make any prosecutor proud. As she worked, a strange calm settled over her. The hurt was still there, but it was being replaced by something more powerful: clarity. This wasn't about the money, or even the lies. This was about a man who had systematically destroyed her self-worth while stealing her identity and financial security. Marcus had spent months portraying her as a failure to anyone who would listen. He'd isolated her from his professional life, hidden her from his social circles, and convinced her that she was the problem in their marriage. But Sarah had something Marcus didn't realize she possessed: the same analytical skills that had once made her a valuable marketing coordinator. She could read data, identify patterns, and develop strategies. And right now, she was developing a strategy that would show Marcus exactly what a real failure looked like. Sarah had always been methodical, but heartbreak sharpened her focus to a razor's edge. She spread the printed evidence across their dining table like a general planning a campaign. Her laptop opened to multiple tabs, Marcus's company website, his social media accounts, and a legal aid website she'd bookmarked. First, she needed to understand her target. Henderson and Associates prided itself on integrity and family values. Their website featured photos of employees at company picnics with their spouses and children. Their employee handbook, which she found in Marcus's email downloads, was explicit about expense fraud and personal conduct. Section 4.3 clearly stated that misrepresentation of company funds or personal time off could result in immediate termination. More interesting was Section 7.1. Employees are expected to maintain professional standards in all public communications and social media presence that could reflect upon the company's reputation. Sarah smiled grimly. Marcus had violated both policies extensively. She created new email accounts and social media profiles, carefully constructed to appear legitimate but untraceable to her. Her years in marketing had taught her how to build convincing online personas for market research. Now she'd use those same skills for a different kind of research. The planning took 3 days. Sarah mapped out Marcus's lies with the precision of a forensic accountant. His sick days that coincided with social media posts from bars and restaurants, company credit card charges that didn't match his claimed business activities, his pattern of taking personal time off while claiming family emergencies to his boss. The Hawaii trip funded by their savings but claimed as company business, but Sarah's masterstroke came when she cross-referenced Marcus's work calendar with his social media activity. He'd been using family emergencies and personal health issues to take time off for leisure activities. She found 14 instances over 6 months where he'd lied to his employer about his availability. The first strike had to be surgical. Sarah composed an anonymous email to Ms. Henderson, Marcus's direct supervisor. I thought you should be aware that one of your employees may be misrepresenting his availability and expenses. Marcus Chen claimed family emergency leave on March 15, April 3, and April 22, but social media posts show him at recreational activities during these times. Additionally, his current Hawaii trip was described to colleagues as company-sponsored training, but appears to be personal vacation funded by personal accounts. I'm attaching relevant documentation, a concerned party. She attached screenshots of Marcus's Instagram stories, carefully cropped to remove identifying information about her sources, along with copies of his leave requests that she'd found in his email. The second phase targeted his professional reputation. Sarah had always been friendly with the spouses of Marcus's co-workers at company events. She reached out to 3 of them through carefully crafted Facebook messages. Hi Jennifer, I hope you're well. I wanted to give you a heads up about something concerning. I've discovered that Marcus has been portraying himself as single on social media and at work events. I thought you should know since it might affect how Dave's colleagues view married employees. I'm attaching some screenshots. I hope this doesn't cause any issues, but I felt you deserved to know. Each message was personalized, striking the right tone of concerned friend rather than vengeful wife. Sarah knew these women would share the information with their husbands, and workplace gossip would handle the rest. The third phase was financial protection. Sarah transferred their remaining joint savings to an individual account, documenting each fraudulent charge Marcus had made. She contacted the credit card companies about the unauthorized accounts opened in her name, filing formal fraud reports, but she saved the most devastating move for last. Marcus's phone was linked to their shared iCloud account, another example of his careless assumption that she'd never think to check. Sarah could see every text, every photo, every app notification. She set up automatic screenshots of his messages and social media activity, creating a real-time record of his Hawaii vacation. By day 4, she was ready to execute. She sent the email to Ms. Henderson at 8 a.m. Pacific time, knowing Marcus would be nursing a hangover from the previous night's activities. The messages to the wives went out at lunch, when they'd be most likely to read and respond. Then Sarah sat back and watched her husband's carefully constructed lies begin to crumble, one truth at a time. The first call came at 2 p.m. Hawaii time. Marcus's ringtone, the one that usually made her smile, now sounded like a death knell, echoing through their empty house. Sarah didn't answer. She was too busy documenting his panicked text messages for her divorce attorney. The avalanche started slowly, then gained devastating momentum. Marcus's first voicemail was confused. Sarah, Mr. Henderson wants to talk to me about some concerns regarding my time off. Did you say something to someone? Call me back. The second, 3 hours later, carried a note of panic. What the hell is going on? Henderson's asking about my social media and expense reports. Sarah, I need you to call me right now. By the third call, Marcus's voice cracked with desperation. They're suspending me pending investigation. They said someone sent documentation of policy violations. Sarah, please, I know we had a fight, but you couldn't. Sarah saved each voicemail, her expression growing more satisfied with every increasingly frantic message. She'd spent the day productively consulting with Diana Martinez, a divorce attorney she'd found through online reviews, and opening her own checking account at a different bank. Your documentation is extremely thorough, Diana had said, reviewing Sarah's evidence folders. Financial fraud, identity theft, emotional abuse. You've built a compelling case. How did you know to gather all this? I spent 8 months thinking I was unemployable, Sarah replied. Turns out I was just married to someone who wanted me to believe that. The real fireworks began when Marcus's coworkers started receiving Sarah's carefully crafted messages. Jennifer Patterson, Dave's wife, was the first to respond. OMG, Sarah, I had no idea. Dave is furious. He's been covering for Marcus at work, making excuses for his behavior. I'm showing him these screenshots right now. Within hours, Sarah's phone buzzed with supportive messages from the other wives. Lisa here, Jim's wife. I always thought something was off about Marcus at the company barbecue. He barely acknowledged you were there. Jim's mortified that he's been friends with someone who treats his wife like this. Sarah, this is Karen, Tom's wife. Tom came home from work saying Marcus got suspended, and now I understand why. What a complete sociopath. If you need anything, please call. The workplace gossip network, which Sarah had always dismissed as petty, became her greatest ally. By Wednesday, Marcus's professional reputation was in free fall. His colleagues, who had been subjected to months of his complaints about his needy wife, now saw him as a liar and a fraud. Marcus's final voicemail from Hawaii was pure desperation. Sarah, I'm coming home early. We need to talk. I can fix this. I can explain. Please don't do anything else until I get there. She was waiting when he arrived Thursday evening, divorce papers spread on the kitchen table like a welcome mat. Marcus looked haggard, his vacation tan unable to mask the stress lines around his eyes. Sarah, thank God. Listen, I know you're upset about the money, but sit down, Marcus. Her voice was calm, controlled. We need to discuss your options. He sat, his eyes darting between her face and the legal documents. My option: you can sign these papers and agree to an equitable division of assets, minus the $8,000 you stole and the $12,000 in fraudulent credit card debt you created in my name. Sarah slid a financial summary across the table. Or you can fight it, and I'll present all of this evidence in court. She gestured to 3 bankers' boxes filled with printed emails, bank statements, and social media screenshots. Every lie you told your boss, every dollar you stole, every time you portrayed yourself as single to your coworkers, every cruel thing you said about me to your friends. Marcus's face went white. You went through my private emails? My phone? Sarah, that's legal, since they were on our shared devices and accounts. Sarah's months of research had covered this angle too. The credit cards you opened in my name, however, constitute identity theft, a felony in this state. You're blowing this out of proportion. So I took some money for a trip. So what? Couples fight, Sarah. This is insane. Sarah's composure cracked slightly. You called me a worthless failure while stealing from our future. You spent months convincing everyone we know that I was the problem in our marriage. You committed fraud using my personal information, and you think I'm the one being unreasonable. Marcus tried a different approach, his voice softening. Honey, I know I said some things I didn't mean. I was stressed about work, about money. You know I love you. We can work through this. The same way we worked through your secret dating app subscription. Sarah pulled out another document. Or your second Instagram account, where you post about cutting dead weight from your life. Marcus's shoulders sagged. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked genuinely defeated. How long have you known? Long enough to protect myself, long enough to document everything, long enough to realize that the biggest mistake I made wasn't losing my job, it was believing you when you told me I was worthless. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diana Martinez. Preliminary court date set for next Friday. Bring all documentation. You're going to be fine. Sarah showed Marcus the message. You have until Monday to decide. Sign the papers, or we'll let a judge decide how much your lies were worth. As Marcus stared at the divorce papers, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Power. Not the cruel dominating power Marcus had wielded over her, but the quiet strength that came from knowing her own worth. She'd spent 8 months thinking she was a failure. Now she understood that she'd simply been married to one. Marcus chose to fight. "You think you're so smart," he snarled Monday morning, throwing the unsigned divorce papers on the kitchen counter. "But you forgot one thing, Sarah. I know things about you too. Your little depression episodes. Your anxiety attacks during job interviews. Wait until my lawyer hears about your mental health issues." Sarah looked up from her laptop, where she'd been responding to emails from 3 different companies interested in interviewing her. News of her divorce had somehow reached her professional network, and several former colleagues had reached out with opportunities, impressed by her strength during difficult circumstances. "Your lawyer?" she asked mildly. "Jenkins, Morrison and Associates, top firm in the city. They're going to tear you apart in court." Marcus's confidence was forced, but Sarah could see the desperation underneath. "I'll get everything back, plus alimony for the emotional distress you've caused me." What Marcus didn't know was that Jenkins, Morrison and Associates had already contacted Sarah's attorney. They'd withdrawn their representation after learning about the identity theft charges and Marcus's termination from Henderson and Associates. No reputable firm wanted to touch a case involving documented fraud and workplace misconduct. The final blow came that afternoon. Marcus had spent the weekend trying to salvage his professional reputation, reaching out to contacts in his industry. What he discovered was that Sarah's evidence had spread far beyond his immediate workplace. Henderson and Associates had shared the details of his termination with other firms as part of standard reference checks, effectively blacklisting him from similar positions. Desperate and running out of options, Marcus made his fatal mistake. He created a Facebook post designed to publicly shame Sarah and control the narrative one last time. "Going through a difficult divorce right now. It's amazing how vindictive some people can become when they're not getting their way. My wife decided to destroy my career because I took a work trip she didn't approve of. Men, protect yourselves. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." Some people will do anything to avoid taking responsibility for their own failures. The post gained traction among his male friends and former colleagues, garnering supportive comments about crazy ex-wives and bitter women. For a brief moment, Marcus felt he'd regained control of the story. Sarah's response was swift and surgical. She created a single Facebook post of her own, tagging Marcus and using privacy settings that made it visible to their mutual connections. "Since my husband has chosen to make our private matters public, I feel it's important to set the record straight. I'm sharing this not out of vindictiveness, but because the truth matters." What followed was a carefully curated collection of Marcus's own words and actions. Screenshots of his emails calling her dead weight, photos from his single social media account, documentation of the unauthorized credit cards, bank statements showing his fraudulent spending, and copies of his leave requests compared to his social media activity. But the devastating centerpiece was a screenshot of his original post, followed by a simple statement: "This is what my husband calls taking responsibility for stealing $8,000 from our joint savings, committing identity theft and lying to his employer about sick days while posting vacation photos online. I'll let you draw your own conclusions about who's avoiding accountability." The post exploded across their social network. Within hours, it had been shared dozens of times, reaching not just their immediate circle, but extending to Marcus's professional contacts, college friends, and extended family. The comments section became a public trial, with people who had known them for years expressing shock and support for Sarah. Marcus's own family reached out privately. His sister called to apologize for his behavior. His mother sent a heartfelt message: "I raised him better than this. I'm so sorry, honey. You deserve so much better." The social media storm sealed Marcus's fate. 3 potential employers rescinded interview offers after the post reached their attention. His lease application for a new apartment was rejected. Even his gym membership was canceled after other members complained about his presence. By Friday, Marcus was broke, unemployed, and facing bankruptcy. He'd moved in with his parents, who had made it clear that he was welcome only until he got his act together and made things right. Sarah, meanwhile, had accepted a position as marketing director at a growing digital agency, a role that came with a salary increase and the respect she'd been craving. Her new boss had specifically mentioned being impressed by her analytical approach to problem solving during the interview. The final confrontation came at the courthouse. Marcus, flanked by a public defender instead of his promised high-powered attorney, looked nothing like the confident man who had called her worthless just 2 weeks earlier. "You destroyed my life," he whispered as they waited for their case to be called. Sarah looked at him with something approaching pity. "No, Marcus, I just stopped letting you destroy mine." The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. Sarah received her requested settlement, plus damages for the identity theft and financial fraud. Marcus was ordered to pay restitution and faced possible criminal charges if he violated the restraining order Sarah had filed. As they left the courthouse, Sarah felt the weight of the past months lifting from her shoulders. She'd proven to herself that she wasn't worthless, wasn't a failure, wasn't any of the things Marcus had convinced her she was. She was a woman who knew her worth, and she would never let anyone diminish it again. 6 months later, Sarah stood in her new photography studio, adjusting the lighting for her first major commercial shoot. The settlement money, combined with her savings and new salary, had finally made her dream business a reality. Chen Photography was painted in elegant script across the front window, visible from the busy downtown street. Her client today was Maria Santos, a woman in her 40s who had reached out after seeing Sarah's story shared in a support group for women leaving abusive relationships. "I saw what you did," Maria had said during their initial consultation. "How you documented everything, how you protected yourself, you inspired me to finally leave my husband." Sarah's story had taken on a life of its own, shared in domestic violence forums and women's empowerment groups across social media. She'd started receiving messages from women in similar situations, asking for advice on gathering evidence and protecting their finances. What had begun as personal revenge had evolved into something larger, a blueprint for other women to reclaim their power. Marcus, meanwhile, had faded into obscurity. Sarah occasionally heard updates through mutual acquaintances. He was working at a call center, living with his parents, required to attend court-ordered anger management classes. His social media accounts had gone silent after the Facebook debacle, and his professional network had essentially evaporated. Sarah felt no satisfaction in his downfall anymore, only relief that he could no longer hurt her. The rage that had fueled her initial revenge had transformed into something more valuable: self-respect and the knowledge that she would never again tolerate someone treating her as less than she was worth. "Are you ready?" Maria asked, smoothing her dress nervously. She was posing for professional headshots to launch her new career as a real estate agent, another woman starting over, building something new from the ashes of a destructive relationship. "Absolutely," Sarah said, raising her camera. Through the viewfinder, she saw not just her client but a reflection of her own journey. Both women had learned the same hard lesson. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's life, but refusing to let them destroy yours. As the shutter clicked, Sarah smiled. She'd thought Marcus calling her a worthless failure was the end of her story. Instead, it had been the beginning of a much better one. Outside the studio window, life in the city moved forward, busy, complicated, full of second chances. Sarah was finally ready to claim her. The camera clicked again, capturing another moment of a woman discovering her strength. In the end, that was the real victory, not just surviving betrayal, but using it to build something beautiful.